I'd been out of work for months when the school district called. A bus driver gave decent pay. No questions about my spotty record. Route 13's yours, the dispatcher said, voice gruff over the phone. Just follow the rules, Jack. I laughed it off. Rules for driving a bunch of kids? Easy enough. The bus was an old beast, yellow paint peeling, seats creaking like they'd snap under a stiff breeze. I climbed aboard that first morning, the engine sputtering to life, and found a crumpled paper in the glove box. Rules for Route 13, scribbled in shaky pen where gems like don't look in the rearview mirror after 6 p.m. And if you hear singing, speed up. I smirked, tossing it aside. Some joker's prank. The town was small, nestled between foggy woods and dead fields. The kind of place where everyone knows your business. My route wound through back roads, gravel crunching under the tires, trees crowding close, their branches scraping the roof like fingernails. The kids piled on at the first stop, a dozen or so, all quiet for grade schoolers. No chatter, no shoving, just blank stares out the windows. Row morning, huh? I said, forcing a grin. A girl with pigtails, Lily, whispered. She's watching, her eyes darting to the trees. Kids and their imaginations. The day dragged, the bus rattling along Route 13, dropping kids at lonely houses swallowed by mist. By the last stop, the sun dipped low, painting the sky blood red. I pulled up to Lily's place, a shack with boarded windows, and she lingered by the door. Don't listen to her, she said, voice barely audible, then bolted inside. Her who? I called, but she was gone. I shook my head, chalking it up to kid weirdness, until a handprint smeared the fog glass. Outside the bus, fingers too long, pressed from the wrong side. My gut twisted. No one was out there. Back at the depot, dusk settled heavy, the clock ticking past 6 p.m. I cleaned up, avoiding the rearview mirror like the rules said. Stupid, but it stuck with me. A hum drifted from the back seats, soft, melodic, like a lullaby gone sour. If you hear singing, speed up, the list warned. I froze, keys jangling in my hand, the sound growing, curling around my ears. I bolted for the driver's seat, slammed the gas, and peeled out, tires squealing on gravel. The hum faded, but my hands wouldn't stop shaking. Home was a rented trailer on the town's edge, the woods pressing close. I locked the door, cracked a beer, and tried to laugh it off. Overtime nerves, that's all. But the rules nagged at me. So I fished the paper from my jacket, reading by lamplight. Rule #3. Never talk back if she calls your name. She. I snorted, tossing it on the table. A shadow flicked across the window. Tall. Thin, gun when I turned. Get a grip, Jack, I muttered, downing the beer. Sleep hit hard, but dreams twisted it. Fog choking the bus. Kids' faces blank. A voice singing my name. Jack. I jolted awake, sweat soaked, the clock glowing 3:13 a.m. A creak came from the trailer's roof, like footsteps, slow and heavy. I grabbed a flashlight, stepped outside, the beam cutting through fog. Nothing up there, just dripping branches. Back inside, the radio hissed on. Static spitting, then my name. Shark, clear as day. I yanked the plug, heart pounding. The silence worse than the sound. The next morning, I checked the bus. Claw marks gouged the side, deep and fresh, metal curling like paper. A kid's drawing slipped from a seat. A skeletal woman, hollow eyes, mouth open in a song, labeled The Singing Lady. Lily's voice echoed in my head. She's watching. I looked up. Fog rolled in, thick and alive, swallowing the road. A hum drifted from the woods, soft and hungry, calling me back to Route 13. The claw marks on the bus stared Jack down the next morning. jagged lines curling the metal like something had tried to peel it open. He ran his fingers over them, cold and sharp. The kid's drawing of the singing lady crumpled in his other hand. "What the hell am I dealing with?" he muttered, the fog pressing thick around the depot, muffling the world. A hum drifted from the woods, soft, lilting, tugging at his nerves. He shook it off, climbing aboard for the day's run, the rules list stuffed in his pocket like a lifeline. The kids boarded at the first stop, silent again, eyes locked on the windows. Lily slid into her seat, whispering, "She's mad now," her voice barely a breath. "Who's mad?" Jack asked, glancing at her in the rearview. "Against rule #1, damn it." Her eyes were wide, pupils swallowing the light, reflecting something tall and thin outside. He yanked his gaze away, heart slamming, the bus lurching forward as the hum grew louder, seeping through the glass. Dropping them off was a blur, each house swallowed by fog, kids vanishing into the haze. At Lily's stop, she lingered again, clutching her backpack. "Don't stop tonight," she said, then bolted. Jack frowned, rule #5 flashing in his mind. Never stop after dusk. A shadow flickered in the trees, gaunt, swaying. Gone when he blinked. "Screw this," he muttered, peeling out, gravel spitting under the tires. Back at the depot, Jack dug through the office, hands shaking as he flipped through old files. Names of past drivers jumped out. Quit, missing. One marked accident, with no details. A logbook hidden under a stack of manuals caught his eye. Pages yellowed, ink smudged. Route 13. The Watcher takes what's hers. It read, detailing kids vanishing, drivers hearing songs, rules scratched in frantic handwriting. "She sings them away," one entry warned. Dated 10 years back. The driver's name scratched out. A chill crawled up Jack's spine. The singing lady wasn't new. That night, he drove Route 13 again, the fog thicker, swallowing the headlights. The kids sat stiff, mouths moving in unison, chanting low and wordless, a tune that buzzed in his skull. "Knock it off," he barked. Breaking rule #3. "Never talk back if she calls." The chanting stopped, but a voice hissed from the back. "Jack." Soft, feminine, dripping with hunger. He floored it, the bus rattling, the hum chasing him down the road. A figure stood at the next stop, tall, skeletal, shrouded in mist. Jack slowed, squinting. Then she was gone, a giggle echoing in the dark. The kid's eyes glowed white for a split second, then dulled. "What the hell?" he gasped, gripping the wheel, the rules crumpling in his pocket as he sped past. The next run, dusk hit fast, the sky bruising purple. A thud rocked the bus, something heavy landing on the roof. Rule #5 screamed in his head, but he slammed the brakes, tire iron in hand, stepping out. "Show yourself," he yelled, voice shaking. Claw marks streaked the roof, fresh and deep, black sap dripping onto the gravel. A rustle came from the woods, twigs snapping, leaves crunching, then silence. He climbed back in, pulse racing, the hum swelling, vibrating the seats. Lily's seat was empty when he checked, her backpack gone, a smear of black sap on the cushion. "Lily," he called, breaking rule #3 again. The radio crackled, her voice leaking through. "She is here, Jack." Before cutting to static, he floored it to her stop. The shack dark, no lights. A scream pierced the fog. High, desperate, then silence. He ran to the door, pounding, but it swung open. Empty, dust thick, claw marks gouging the walls. Back on the bus, the kids stared, unblinking, their chanting louder, a song he couldn't shake. "Stop it," he shouted, tires squealing as he drove, the rearview mirror cracking. Her face flashed in it, hollow eyes, skeletal grin, gone in a blink. The rules burned in his pocket. "And at the church if she boards." He swerved toward the old church lot, tires crunching gravel, the hum now a roar in his ears. Home that night, Jack barricaded the trailer, doors locked, windows nailed shut. He scoured online forums, for no sleep, creepy threads, finding whispers of Route 13. The singing lady takes the kids, marks the drivers. A post chilled him. She's in the rules. Break them, and you're hers. His hands itched, scratches appearing. 3 jagged lines, black sap oozing. No way, he gasped, scrubbing them raw. But they stayed. A knock rattled the door. Soft, rhythmic. "Jack, let us in!" A kid's voice cooed. Lily's, but wrong, layered with her hum. He peeked out. Fog pressed against the glass, her silhouette swaying, eyes glowing white. "Jack!" she sang, claws tapping the window. He stumbled back, grabbing salt from the kitchen, some half-remembered trick, and poured it at the threshold. The singing stopped, a hiss fading into the night. The phone buzzed. Alex, an old driver, had tracked down. "Quit, man!" Alex rasped, voice off. "Hello? She's got Lily now. You're next." The line cut, static spitting her song. Jack's trailer shook, a thud on the roof, clothes scraping above. He grabbed the tire iron, salt, the rules. Route 13 wasn't just a job anymore. It was a trap, and he was running out of time. Jack gripped the tire iron tight, his knuckles white, as he climbed aboard the bus for what he swore would be the last time. The rules list was crumpled in his pocket, salt packets stuffed in his jacket, some half-baked plan from a frantic online search. The scratches on his hands burned, black sap oozing, a mark he couldn't wash away. "One more run," he muttered, the engine coughing to life. The fog outside thick and alive, swirling like it knew he was coming. Route 13 stretched ahead, a ribbon of gravel swallowed by the woods, the hum already buzzing in his ears. The kids boarded silently, their faces blank, eyes glowing faintly white in the dim light. Lily's seat stayed empty, her absence a knife in his gut. He floored it, tires crunching, the bus rattling as the chanting started. Low, wordless, her song weaving through their voices. A shadow darted across the road, tall, skeletal, then vanished. Jack's breath hitched, the rearview mirror tempting him, but he kept his eyes forward, rule #1 screaming in his head. A thud rocked the roof, claws scraping metal, loud and close. He swerved, the bus fishtailing, kids swaying like dolls. "Hang on!" he yelled, breaking rule #3 again, the hum swelling into a roar that shook the windows. Glass shattered behind him. Her voice cut through, "Ja!" high and sharp, splitting his eardrums. He glanced back, against every instinct, and there she was, the singing lady, clinging to the rear door, skeletal frame draped in tattered rags, hollow eyes blazing, mouth open in a song that cracked the air. She lunged inside, claws slashing, the kids chanting rising to a scream. Jack slammed the brakes, grabbing the salt and hurling it at her. White grains hit her chest, sizzling, burning her flesh black. She screeched, a sound like glass grinding, retreating to the aisle. He swung the tire iron, cracking her arm. Bone snapped, black sap spraying. But she laughed, her voice layering with the kids. "Mine, mine, mine." The bus shook, fog pouring in, tendrils curling around the seats. Her claws raked the ceiling, metal curling like foil, and she leapt, pinning him to the wheel. Her breath smelled of rot, hollow eyes inches from his, singing his name in a tune that clawed his mind. He shoved her off, tire iron swinging wild, smashing her jaw. Teeth scattered, her screech deafening, blood pounding in his ears. She staggered, tendrils lashing from her back, wrapping his legs. He hacked at them, sap soaking his jeans, burning his skin. "Get off my bus," he roared, driving the iron into her chest. Black ooze gushing. The kid's eyes flared white, their voices peaking. Her song a wail now. High. Desperate. He ripped a salt packet with his teeth, pouring it into her wound. She convulsed, clawing the air, ash flaking from her skin. The church lot loomed ahead. Rule #7. End at the church if she boards. Jack floored it, tires screaming, crashing through the gate. He leapt out, dragging salt bags from the back, pouring a circle around the bus as she thrashed inside, her form unraveling. "Stay back!" he yelled, tossing the tire iron. It struck her skull, cracking bone, her scream shattering the windshield. The kids fell silent, collapsing in their seats, eyes dulling to normal. She clawed at the salt line, burning, her hollow eyes locked on his. Then she dissolved, ash swirling into the fog, her song fading to a hiss. Jack dropped to his knees, chest heaving. The bus quiet save for the drip of sap on gravel. The fog lifted slightly, the churches cross-glinting in the dawn, a shaky hope flickering in his gut. He climbed aboard, checking the kids, breathing, alive, confused. "It's over," he rasped, voice raw, driving them home one by one, their parents' relieved hugs a blur. Back at the depot, he torched the rules list, watching it curl to ash. The bus impounded behind him. No more Route 13, he swore, packing his trailer that night, the city calling him away from this cursed town. But as he shut the door, a faint hum brushed his ear. So soft, so hungry, chilling his blood. Jack's hands still shook as he dropped the last kid off, their parents' grateful tears blurring into the fog that clung to the town. The bus rattled back to the depot, its claw-marked sides glinting under the streetlights, a silent witness to the nightmare. He parked it, the engine coughing out, and stood there, staring at the ash-streaked floor where she dissolved. "You're done," he muttered, kicking the salt-dusted gravel, the faint hum in his ears fading, or so he hoped. He torched the rules list in a trash can, flames licking the paper to black curls, and walked away, the depot's gate clanging shut behind him. Back at the trailer, he packed fast. Clothes, a few beers, the tire iron he couldn't leave behind, stuffing it all into his truck. The scratches on his hands itched, 3 jagged lines crusted with black, but he ignored them, slamming the tailgate. "City's calling," he said, forcing a grin, the woods looming dark and still beyond the lot. A shadow flickered in the trees, tall, swaying, gone when he blinked. "Just tired," he told himself, climbing in, the engine roaring as he peeled out, leaving the cursed town in his rearview. The city was a jolt, horns blaring, lights flashing, people everywhere. Jack rented a cheap apartment downtown, the hum of traffic drowning out the silence he'd grown to dread. He found a warehouse job, hauling boxes, the monotony a relief after Route 13. Nights were beers and TV, trying to forget her hollow eyes, her song. But sleep brought dreams, fog choking the bus, kids chanting, her skeletal fingers tapping his shoulder. He'd wake, gasping, the scratches on his hands warm, pulsing faintly. A week in, a letter slipped under his door. No stamp, just his name scrawled in shaky ink. Inside, a kid's drawing, lilies. He'd bet, showing him driving, her stick figure self smiling. Caption, "Thank you, Jack." His throat tightened, a flicker of warmth cutting through the unease. But at the bottom, in red crayon, "I still hear her." He dropped it, the paper fluttering to the floor, a hum brushing his ear, soft, distant, her tune. The city's noise couldn't hide it anymore. Fog crept into his apartment one night, seeping under the windows, thick and cold. He yanked the blinds shut, heart pounding, but a shadow moved in his peripheral vision, gaunt, swaying, vanishing when he turned. Not real, he growled, downing a beer, the can crumpling in his grip. The radio hissed on, static spitting. Then her voice, "Yeah," low and hungry. He smashed it with the tire iron, sparks flying, the hum lingering in the silence. Old coworkers called days later. "Alex?" From the depot, his voice off, hollow. "Route 13's back up, man. New driver." Kids are missing again. Jack's stomach dropped, the scratches flaring hot. "I ended it," he snapped, but Alex laughed. "A sound too sharp, too wrong. She'll done with you." The line cut, static buzzing in his ear, her song threading through it. He checked the mirror. His reflection stared back, eyes flickering white for a heartbeat, then dulling. Sleep evaded him that night, the apartment creaking, footsteps pacing the ceiling, slow and heavy. He grabbed salt from the kitchen, pouring it at the door, the grains dissolving into black sludge. "Stay out," he whispered, clutching the tire iron, the hum growing, vibrating the walls. A knock rattled the door. Soft, rhythmic. "Jack, it's me." Lily's voice cooed, sweet but layered with her growl. He peeked out. Fog pressed against the glass, her silhouette swaying, eyes glowing white, claws tapping. He stumbled back, the scratches on his hands bleeding now, black sap dripping onto the floor. The phone buzzed. A text from Alex. "She's calling you back." Jack's shadow stretched across the wall. Too long, claws curling at the edges, then snapped back. He grabbed his keys, the tire iron, salt, anything, knowing the city wasn't far enough. Route 13 wasn't done with him, and neither was she. Below is the detailed resolution for the Whispering Route, written in natural American English with a haunting, creepypasta-inspired style, tailored to the American voice. This section is approximately 3,000 characters, around 500-600 words, wrapping up the tale with a chilling aftermath and a shocking twist that leaves readers unsettled. Jack faces the inescapable grip of the singing lady, realizing his fight was futile as her influence consumes him. Mini hooks strike every 30-40 seconds, maintaining tension with eerie imagery and sounds, ensuring a memorable, disturbing finish. Inspired by creepypasta.com. No sleep, and the ghost in my machine. It remains original and impactful. Jack stood in his city apartment, tire iron gripped tight, the black sap from his scratches pooling on the floor. The hum vibrated through the walls, her song weaving into his skull, soft, relentless, calling him back. Lily's silhouette lingered outside, claws tapping the glass, her white eyes glowing through the fog. He poured more salt, the grains sizzling into sludge, useless now. "I beat you," he growled, voice cracking, but the scratches flared, black veins creeping up his arms. A thud hit the ceiling, heavy, deliberate, then footsteps pacing, circling above. He swung the iron at the air, heart slamming, shadows stretching across the room, his own twisted claws curling at the edges. The mirror caught his eye. His reflection stared back, eyes flickering white, then red, a hollow grin splitting his face for a heartbeat. "No!" he yelled, smashing it, shards scattering. But her laugh echoed in the shards, high and sharp. The phone buzzed. Alex's voice, hollow, layered with her hum. "Route 13 needs you, Jack." The line cut, static spitting her tune. He grabbed his keys, stumbling outside, the city swallowed by fog, thick, alive, curling around him like tendrils. A bus horn blared, sharp and close. Yellow paint glinted through the haze. The old Route 13 bus idling at the curb, door creaking open. "Not again," he gasped, but his feet moved, drawn forward, the scratches pulsing in time with her song. Inside, the seats were empty, claw marks gouging the metal, sap dripping. The wheel turned under his hands, the engine roaring without him touching the gas. Folk pressed against the windows, her skeletal form swaying outside, hollow eyes locked on his. "Jack!" she sang, voice shattering the glass. Kids' faces flashing in the shards, Lily, the others, white-eyed, grinning, chanting with her. He floored it, tires screaming. But the road stretched endless, woods rising around him. Route 13 again, looping back. The kids appeared in the seats, silent, their shadows stretching with claws, eyes glowing. "You can't leave," Lily whispered, her voice hers now, claws tapping his shoulder. Jack's hands bled black, the wheel slick, his reflection in the cracked windshield, showing her face over his, hollow, singing, eternal. I'm still driving Route 13, the fog my cage, her song my chains. The kids chant, the bus rattles, and she rides with me, always watching, always watching, always hungry. The rules weren't to save me, they were to trap. If you hear singing a lonely road, speed up, don't look back. She's waiting, and I'm her driver now.